Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Mi'kmaq territory. For those of you who wish, I'd like for you to stand and help me pray. Great Spirit, great grandfather of all, we come before you as your children. We represent the four races of humanity: the white, the yellow, the red, and the black. We come before you with many cultures, many traditions, and many ceremonies. Standing together, shoulder to shoulder, we share those things amongst ourselves. Great Spirit, we ask that you bless our children, our grandparents, our elders, and all of our seniors, that you bless all things that have spirit. We ask that you keep them safe in times of COVID and otherwise. We ask that you bless those who are lost and forlorn. We ask that you help to heal those who are sick. Great Spirit, we ask that you look after those who look after us. All of our ministers in government have done a beautiful job of looking after us and keeping us safe. We ask that you keep our military safe and those all across Turtle Island in the world. We pray for Mother Earth, that she continue to be able to provide for us and to keep our bellies full. Great Spirit, please bless us and help us to continue to be strong and come together as one. Let our hearts beat as one. We say these words with open minds, open hearts, with much love to you on this day. All my relations, Tahoe, amen. Thank you.
Just bear with me while I do the usual. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us for this very special announcement. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kmaq, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. As you know, we are in the midst of a very important moment in our time. Systemic racism, discrimination, injustices faced by people of color and other communities have garnered public awareness and have sparked intense debates. Decision makers in all institutions, including law enforcement, can no longer ignore what is broken, what is not fair, and what is discriminatory. My personal experiences with law enforcement across this country have not always been positive. It is personal for me because it's personal for so many people in my community. And unfortunately, my experiences are not unique. Law enforcement and what we know to be public safety needs to change, and that includes the actions of the individuals who serve within. Our racially marginalized and diverse communities continue to advocate and take action for that change, and I want to thank them for that. However, positive change is a shared responsibility, and it is needed in order for us to have full inclusion in all institutions. It is important that we carry on the work of having a just and equal society. That's what every generation has fought for, and this event today, which is making me sweat terribly, is another step in that direction. So, I'd like to now introduce my colleague and friend, Minister Mark Furey, Minister of Justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Good morning, everyone. As the Minister of Justice for Nova Scotia, much of my reflection has been on the role of public safety and justice in our communities. Every Nova Scotian should feel safe and protected by our justice system. But we know not all Nova Scotians do. The Black Lives Matter protests have echoed the findings of many reports. Their findings show that justice systems across the country, including here in Nova Scotia, from policing to prosecution, through to sentencing and corrections, are systemically racist. These systems reflect and perpetuate anti-Black racism and racism against Indigenous people and other marginalized communities. The Department of Justice bears significant responsibility for the historical and current reality that our justice system has been structured to the benefit of some and not all Nova Scotians. It will take the full attention and commitment of the Department of Justice and justice system partners, many of them represented here today, to achieve the fundamental change that is required. As the Minister of Justice, I acknowledge my responsibilities and pledge the full commitment and support of the Nova Scotia Department of Justice. We are here today, collectively, to support the Premier's announcement of a new path forward to a safer and more just Nova Scotia for all. With those few remarks, it's my pleasure to introduce the Premier of the province of Nova Scotia, my good friend, Stephen McNeil.
Thank you, Ministers. I want to thank all of you for being here, including those who are watching on the live stream. Today I brought a speech with me. I don't often do that, but because there's so much I don't know, and quite frankly, so much that I don't understand. I wanted to get this right, and to be truthful, I'm a tad bit nervous. For many reasons, it's difficult for me to stand here and say our justice system is not just. But for many, it has never been just. But for those of us of white privilege, of white male privilege, and those of us who have been in positions of power, we have for too long failed to hear and respond to the call for change because the justice system has worked for us. We aren't profiled because of the color of our skin. We aren't automatically a suspect because of the color of our skin. And we aren't assumed guilty because of the color of our skin. But this is happening to people in our communities. Black mothers have to tell their children, keep your hands out of your pockets when you go into a store, or you could be accused of stealing. Don't put your hood over your head as you're walking down the street. You may look suspicious. Be careful when you go outside of your neighborhood, or people might call the police because you look like you don't belong. When you are pulled over by police, not if, but when you are pulled over by police, show your hands, don't talk back. This is the lived reality of many black people in our cities and our communities. Street checks, surveillance, suspicion. White people don't need to think about these things. Black people can't afford not to. Our system of justice, from policing to courts to corrections, have failed many members of our black community. A system that is supposed to keep you safe, but because of the color of your skin, you fear it. Today, I say enough. I want you to know I hear you, I see you, I believe you, and I am sorry. On behalf of my ministers, my caucus, our government, we are sorry. We are sorry to young Nova Scotians, to adults, families, and their ancestors who have been failed by racist institutions and systems. I can't take away your pain. I can't bring back lost opportunities or lives. Around the world, we have watched people gather in the streets to demand change, calling for a just future in which Black lives matter. I am here today to say this moment will not pass, as so many other moments for change have passed. The leaders of the official opposition is here. Tim Houston, leader of the NDP, Gary Burrell, is here. We are here in a nonpartisan way, and I want to thank both of you for coming. To the police officers in the room and to other members of the justice system, I know this is not easy to hear, not easy to face, but you being in this room means you are open to change. To members of our Black community, our Indigenous communities, and to our most vulnerable and marginalized who are also been let down by this system because the issues around poverty, mental health, gender and gender identity, your wisdom and lived experience matter. A new approach will require a shared commitment to fundamental change. It will require us all to be brave and bold, and it will require us to rethink assumptions, institutions, systems, mandates, missions, and practices. And thank you to everyone here today for opening your hearts and minds to reimagine a system of justice in Nova Scotia where, regardless of the color of your skin, your cultural background, or your economic position, you are treated with respect and dignity. You feel safe and secure, and that you belong and you can live without fear or hesitation. That's a justice system that works for all, but that is not our current justice system. The time for diagnosing the problem has passed. It's now time for fundamental change. Today, I am announcing a restorative process to transform policing and public safety in Nova Scotia. This will require new ways of doing things, and it starts with a commitment across systems and services, all levels of government, to work with communities for change. To help us do this, we've designed a design team has been appointed, and that is the first phase of this restorative process. The team will include members of government, police, justice, and community. You will meet the design team shortly. It is led by Jake McIsaac, and along with Jennifer Llewellyn. I want to thank you both for taking on this such important task. The team is empowered to design a restorative approach that will transform public safety in Nova Scotia. There are several actions currently underway that will be important elements of the success of the work ahead. We are following through on our commitments from the Restorative Inquiry for the Home for Colored Children. Count us in. Our action plan to respond to the United Nations Decade of People of African Descent, resolving land titles in Black communities, the Wortley Report, and we've also been working to address domestic violence through the Standing Together initiative, as well as our Indigenous Justice Strategy. This work matters, but this restorative process will go deeper to ensure that it leads to fundamental and systemic change. It will require significant changes in our laws, our policies, and practices. The current system is broken, and the only way to fix it is to find a better way, a more just way. Imagine that Black mother not needing to warn her children when they go outside. Instead, encouraging them to have fun and be who they are. Let's not imagine it anymore. Let's not wait. The time for change is now. Let's step up and step into this moment. Let's change the system together.
Thank you, Premier, for your words, for this moment, for acknowledging the voices and experiences of historically marginalized folks across this province, for saying unequivocally that Black Lives Matter here. Your commitment to undertake a careful examination across the various systems and structures that contribute to creating and maintaining safe communities is welcome and timely. When considering apologies, there is saying sorry, which is always important. There's being sorry, often brought on through learning and building understanding. But the proof of an apology will be in the going forward and doing differently. This is an action moment. My name is Jake McIsaac, and it's my privilege to co-facilitate with Jennifer Llewellyn this restorative approach to reimagining and transforming public safety in Nova Scotia. We are joined in this endeavor by a group of dedicated individuals pledging to invest their time and expertise in designing a process of change. You will hear from a few of the design team members momentarily, and following their comments, I will introduce the names of other team members as well, many of whom are in the room, but in the interest of time, we opted to give you a cross-section of the team this morning. Members of the design team were not only chosen because of their subject matter knowledge, diverse experiences, and community connections, all of which will be drawn upon in tackling the issue of inequity and systemic racism across public safety systems, but also because they were courageous enough to believe in and commit to this shift. Each team member has expressed a desire to make a difference and an insistence that this will not be another review, resulting in another report on a shelf. This is about mobilizing and creating the conditions and connections needed for action and change. Recognizing that we stand on the shoulders of all the work of the past that has shown so clearly the problems and failing and the need for fundamental change. We are clearly committed to doing this work in a different way. Our work will not be simply for communities and systems, but with them. This work will center the voices, needs, and vision of people around the province in order to come to understand public safety from their perspectives and determine what is needed to secure it. It also signifies that this group includes wisdom from a far range of experiences and perspectives. They bring with them that knowledge and these relationships, and we want that to matter. This is not a committee or an advisory group. Folks were not selected as representatives of specific organizations or by group affiliation. It is our intention that the design team will seek broad stakeholder participation by reaching out and drawing community in. They will facilitate hard conversations between stakeholders to hear what is needed for change and chart a way forward. We've already heard from design team members that it's important for them to work in transparent and collaborative ways. We know that the responsibility for public safety related to policing lies with the justice system, but at its core, caring for what it takes to make communities safe is the business of many connected systems. We must pay attention to the intersecting needs and ways people have been marginalized so we can bring about this change. Moving forward, working to ensure all Nova Scotians have faith and trust in these institutions and feel like they can play their full part in courageously reimagining public safety, I would like to invite my fellow design team members to share from their perspectives why this moment and this opportunity matters to them.
Good morning. I just want to share a little bit about why I agreed to be a part of this design team. I needed a reference point to why I think this work is important enough for me to be involved in. And I thought this is an opportunity to reimagine public safety for our most vulnerable citizens. As a social worker, I see firsthand how the imbalance of our unjust social structures of systemic racism negatively affect all African Nova Scotians, women experiencing intimate partner violence, and those experiencing homelessness. And I think about why it's important to commit to be a part of the design team is that I have seen how collaboration with community, government, and public service can affect people's lives directly, as it has done in the work of the Restorative Inquiry approach to the Home for Colored Children. So for me, the yes came with some expectations of the design to have action, because that's what's most important for me. And we know that public safety means different things to different people, and it looks differently as well. So truly affordable housing is another important opportunity to reimagine safety for all of us. And I'm looking forward to this opportunity to enact change in our systems. Thank you.
Good morning. In his 9 Principles of Policing, Sir Robert Peel reminds us, the power of the police to fulfill their function and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions, behaviors, and their ability to secure and maintain the public trust. As police, we have heard the call across cities and communities in Nova Scotia that it's time for change. And we know that it's time for us to show up and to have the hard conversations. I am very pleased to have been selected for the design team. As a senior police leader and as president of Nova Scotia Chiefs, I can participate and have meaningful input into this process. I am here to listen without being defensive, to hear what African Nova Scotian and other diverse communities are experiencing in their interactions with the police and the justice system. And I can then take what I learned back to all police chiefs, many of whom are here in the room with me today, so that we can learn and adapt. Thank you.
Candace Thomas.
Thank you and good morning. Let me start by saying I normally put very little stock in apologies, but I found my heart racing when the Premier was speaking. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you, Premier McNeil. I think I may have just said Minister. But Premier McNeil, I get it now. I get it when an apology is coupled with action, that it can and will make a difference. Like most people, I have been listening to the wide range of public voices speaking up in this pivotal moment of challenge. Voices speaking up against anti-Black racism, against anti-Indigenous racism, against long-standing issues in policing across North America. Among other things, these voices, including some in this room, call out for solutions. I joined government because I want to be part of solutions that make a positive difference in the lives of Nova Scotians. The establishment of the Office of Social Innovation and Integrative Approaches shows government's intention to develop a new way of government, a new way of governing, one that puts people first. I have the privilege to serve as the Deputy Minister of this new office, as well as Deputy Minister of Justice and Deputy Attorney General. With the Premier's apology and announcement today, government, law enforcement, and community are coming together to collectively do the right thing, designing the roadmap for meaningful systemic change towards racial justice in public safety in this province. This is important to me professionally, and it matters to me personally. We owe those who have tirelessly pushed for change across generations, those who, in the name of John Lewis, have gotten into good trouble, necessary trouble, to bring that change to life here and now. So I am proud to be a part of this journey towards change, change that I truly believe will reverberate through all aspects of government and our society in Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Shakira Weatherdon.
I did have something written down, but I think the ancestors want to speak something else, so bear with me. Those who are nervous, don't be. This is more than a moment. And as we stand here speaking about public safety, there are members of our own community in various parts of this province advocating for rights, standing for their rights. I think about our sisters and brothers in the Digby area who are asserting their treaty rights. I think about those who are seeing the impact of Black Lives Matter being painted on our streets and having to talk and teach through trauma. I accepted this opportunity because it builds on that trauma and that experience and expertise and work that many before me have done. And I'm not just speaking about the reports, but I'm speaking about all the work that went into those reports that many of us don't get to see. We are building off on that. And it's also really important that we recognize that this is a complex issue. It isn't just happening across borders and elsewhere, it's happening here. It's about interlocking systems of oppression, but also intersecting experiences of oppression and inequity. And so for me, I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to reflect and to meaningfully reimagine what it means to be my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper in this province. I look forward to centering the voice of communities in this work, because without it, we cannot do any of this work. Public safety is about people, it is about their experiences, and I look forward to an opportunity that aims to center that. Thank you.
Martin Morrison.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Morrison, and I'm the Regional Coordinator of African Canadian Education for Tri-County Regional Center for Education. Personally, I'm a father, a grandfather, a son, brother, uncle, nephew, cousin, and a proud member of the African Nova Scotian community of Danvers. As a result of my lived experiences as a student and as an educator over the last 16 years, I witnessed firsthand how systemic inequities in our education system have disproportionately impacted African Nova Scotian learners, families, and communities. As a result of systemic racism, African Nova Scotian learners are overly represented on individual program plans, disproportionately suspended, and disproportionately score lower on provincial assessments as compared to other Nova Scotians. This negative interconnection between education and public safety, specifically policing and the justice system, is commonly referred to as a school-to-prison pipeline. This cycle must be broken. What compels me to participate in this work is the African Nova Scotian community has never feared speaking truth to power, and this is a legacy that I am proud to be a part of. And given the incidences of racism captured on video including the murder of George Floyd and its subsequent global Black Lives Matter and anti-Black racism movement, now is a moment for action. It is my hope through this process that our respective institutions will listen, acknowledge, and respond to these inequities negatively impacting our children and families, my children and my families. I'm pleased to have this opportunity as well as to be affiliated with the people connected to this process. Thank you.
Shelley Martin.
I just want to say I'm really hot and nervous, but I have a few remarks prepared here, but I just wanted to, as I was thinking about this, about why me, and why this moment is particularly important, I was reflecting on a time when I was a Mi'kmaq law student across the street at the Dalhousie Legal Aid Service. And I was set to tackle my first solo client intake interview. And I was really excited and really determined and convinced in my youth and naivete that I could solve every legal problem that the woman I was deemed to meet was facing. And when she came into my office, she was very disheveled and disclosed that she was homeless, that she was an addict, that she had lost her identification due to circumstances that she was living in, which made it very difficult for her to access medical services, complicated her access to social services. And she said that she was hungry. And so I went to the kitchen over at the legal aid clinic and I was making her a tea, and I realized in that moment that not a single piece of law that I knew would help her be safe and warm that night, would help her manage her addiction, and would help her, feed herself and find a meal when she was hungry. And I think in that moment, I really felt like law was a fairly small toolbox with a pretty limited set of tools at my disposal. And I think, generally, when we think about law, we perceive it as having the ability to parse facts and to look at evidence and determine guilt or innocence, but it doesn't really address all of the things that come before in a person's life that bring them into our offices seeking help, right? So I think law, and I realized, throughout my career that law has really been focused on the ways in which people hurt each other, but doesn't address the ways in which we need to support each other and to come together. And I think this process really recognizes the fact that justice requires something more in order for it to be truly just. And, as society changes, so too must law. And I get the sense that we have a pretty good understanding of what law can do, but we have to reconceptualize, what we expect of justice in our communities and for all Nova Scotians. I'm a big fan of Andale Denny, who is the Grand Captain of the Mi'kmaq Grand Council. And I was at a meeting once, and Andale described the Mi'kmaq as being a nation of people who help each other. And I think it's true also of all Nova Scotians that we are blessed here with a generosity of spirit, that we all agree that we need to do more to help those who are most vulnerable and marginalized among us. And so, when we talk about the why, that is the why for me, I think we all recognize that there is a distinct need for change. We've all lived it. The Indigenous community has lived it. The Black community has lived it. And it's time to actually, set the various reports aside and take what we've learned from them and be guided by the wisdom and the truth in our communities to come together and make sure that this work gets done. So for me, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Kate McDonald.
everyone. As mentioned, my name is Kate McDonald. I want to give it up one time for the Black people in the room. So I wrote things down, and then I didn't write things down, and then I wrote notes as people were speaking. So why is this important for me? I'm a proudly African Nova Scotian, something that I carry very close to my heart. And I think the other option is to leave this work the same as it currently stands, and that option is literally deadly for Black people. Transforming policing actually doesn't really exist. It's not about reform right now, because policing was born with racism as its backbone. So we need to recreate something with a new backbone, born out of something else. I'm hoping that this process involves reparations and is reparatory, because there's a lot of mistrust between African Nova Scotian communities and the police and the justice system. I'm an African Nova Scotian mother, an African Nova Scotian community member. I am the African Nova Scotian Black folks who couldn't, can't, and wouldn't be here today, and who might never be invited. I bring them with me. That to say, this announcement is a pretty big promise, and I am just but one voice at the table. So this comes with big expectations on the other side. So what do y'all want to do? What are you willing to give up? Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the members of the design team who spoke to us this morning, and invite the other members who are here to stand as I call your names so you folks can see who they are. Jennifer Llewellyn, co-facilitating, Paula Marshall, Craig Smith, Emma Halpern, Jean Flynn, Tony Smith, Tracy Tweel, Winnie Grant, Lindell Smith, Richard Derebe, Wayne Hamilton, Stephanie McGinnis Langley, and Dean Smith. We are eager to get this design phase of the restorative work underway, and we look forward to the task of reimagining public safety in Nova Scotia together. Thank you for being here today.